Welcome back to Grasping the Gridiron. As always, I'm your host, Zach Thummel, and thank you for listening. Today, we'll look at the Seattle Seahawks and their Thursday night performance against the Arizona Cardinals. I'll give you my game recap and analysis on that. And then we'll also look around the NFL and some headlines around the league. Getting into the Seahawks game against the Cardinals this last Thursday, Seattle really looked in control for much of the night. They built a 20-6 lead that peaked in the fourth quarter, and then Arizona in the fourth quarter started to come back a little bit. But Sam Darnold really looked sharp, and he's the guy that gets things going for them in the passing game. Obviously, as a quarterback, but I think it's important to mention what he's doing in terms of the play action and specifically how he's dialing up these chunk shots with offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak in this outside zone scheme. And he went 18 to 26 for 242 yards and a touchdown. And I mentioned that outside zone scheme, and Kenneth Walker chipped in 81 yards as well. And then Zach Charbonnet had a short touchdown run to add to that. And overall offensively, the Seahawks have looked pretty solid to start the year and looked really great against Arizona. And the defense has struggled in certain spots, but overall I think is a promising unit as the season goes on. The Arizona, however, was really able to take advantage of that, and that's why I mentioned that because they started to lead a comeback against the Seahawks, and Kyler Murray led a late charge, throwing a 16-yard touchdown to Marvin Harrison Jr., and they look like a connection that's going to be great going forward. And Marvin Harrison Jr. looks like a guy that's coming into his own as well. And then he later found Amari DiMercato for a 7-yard score with just 33 seconds left on the clock, and tied the game up for the Cardinals. And the Cardinals, however, were caught by a short kickoff, and Seattle got some really good field position, and Darnold, again, really looked great throwing the ball, and he was able to hit Jackson Smith and Jigba for 22 yards and set up Jason Myers for a 52-yard field goal, just as time went out to seal the deal for the Seahawks with a 23-20 win. And the Seahawks defense overall, while they gave up those points there at the end, and lacked that ability to help out the offense to some degree there in the fourth quarter. I have to give them their flowers because they did have 6 sacks on Kyler Murray, and Jason Myers, need to give him his flowers because he missed a field goal earlier and then made the game winner ultimately when it mattered most. So the Seahawks are going to be a fun team to watch as it goes on, and I think Northwest fans and Seahawks fans should be excited for what Mike McDonald's building here and what Clint Kubiak's doing with the offense. I think the defense will be fine ultimately, and they'll sort some things out. Had some injuries, get some guys back, and I think this team could really win this NFC West, and really has a chance to be a team in the playoffs that maybe gives these contenders fits. So keep an eye out for the Seahawks just overall. And then taking a look around the league, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, this has been really tough to watch because as a Ravens fan, the Ravens have had some really questionable performances so far on both sides of the ball, and now in back-to-back weeks all around. And the offensive performance has struggled as well. And I think I have questions, and a lot of people have questions about whether or not this Ravens team can find some consistency and can win this year, in a year where there's a tremendous amount of injury to a lot of starters. And if you just this has kind of been known if you followed the Ravens at all, but they have a wide variety of starters out. And I'm not going to, or I hesitate to say the number because it's changing day to day. And tomorrow, a lot of these guys that could end up just being questionable and could play. So I don't really want to comment on the injury status when it fluctuates so quickly. But they've really been hit bad, just all around. And just offensively, they've been lacking explosive plays, and Lamar's been hurt, and he just got hurt his hamstring, and so there will be questions as to when he'll be back, and um, overall, I think this season could potentially be just a flush it season for the Ravens, and it pains me to say, but I really think that the wheels could come off pretty quickly if they don't figure something out in Baltimore. And then in Packers and Cowboys news, they tied in a rare 24-24 tie. And this one was significant because Micah Parsons was playing against his old team, obviously in the Dallas Cowboys, and there will be questions for both teams moving forward. And I personally think this was a sort of a a one-off start to the season. I think the Cowboys are going to start to fall off here. I think they're kind of riding the high with some momentum. But I think the Packers, on the other hand, are a Super Bowl contender, especially with this new addition and Micah Parsons. So this tie to me really doesn't mean much, but it was kind of cool to see Micah against his old team. And then I want to mention Jackson Dart and Cam Scatabo and the Giants. I think that franchise has something to really, really look forward to in a developmental season for Jackson Dart. In his first start, he looked all right. There were some moments you would like him to maybe slide or run out of bounds instead of taking some hits, and he's still developing. But I think when you mix him with Cam Scatabo, the rookie running back out of Arizona State, and that downhill style of running and lower body strength that he has, I think these two. I mean, and then you throw in Malik Neighbors, and the play calling potential is endless, and the schematic depth is endless for the Giants, and I think that's where this creativity can really benefit this Giants team moving forward, and they could be something to really. I mean, they honestly could be a Super Bowl contender here in the next few years if they start to put some pieces together because they've got the young quarterback on a young contract, they've got a young receiver on a young contract, young running back. Even though you don't play running backs much, it's always great to have a young guy that you're not obligated to pay a ton in the backfield that can get downhill and north and south like Scatabo can. So the Giants are definitely a team to look for if they can trade for some pieces and draft some pieces into these next couple of years because the blueprint is there in terms of the young quarterback and young weapons. And then moving on to our final bit of national news, there is a sign stealing controversy in San Francisco after the Jaguars' 26-21 win over the 49ers. Jaguars head coach Liam Cohen and the defensive coordinator of the Niners, Robert Saleh, they sort of got into a heated exchange, and this stems from Saleh's pregame comments where he was in a weird way. He was praising Liam Cohen's scheme offensively, but also kind of backhandedly saying that he's sign stealing. And Cohen, after the win, went up to him visibly angry and told him to keep his name out of his mouth. Before the two were sort of separated in a weird exchange. And both of them downplayed the incident afterward. And I honestly think it's just two people in the heat of the moment, or I guess one person in the heat of the moment, and then Saleh responding to it. But I think Saleh would probably, now losing, like to have his comments back pregame just for competitive character. But ultimately, I think this is just what happens when you have two guys that are really competitive, and it just shows you though how the preparation is so in depth, and how there's sort of unwritten rules that coaches really hold each other to. And yeah, I just find this story really unique, and something that we don't see often in terms of coaches yelling at each other about what they're doing, other than maybe some um, late time garbage time showmanship. It's really really rare. And that's all we've got for around the NFL. Looking at the Seahawks and the rest of the NFL, and just some headlines, giving some analysis and some breakdown there. We'll be back next week with the same sort of deal, responding to the Seahawks and giving some analysis on how they perform, and then some headlines around the league as they pop up. So thank you for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and share on Spotify, and make sure to leave some suggestions in the comments section.